Ladies and gentlemen, in America, there's one of the most interesting concepts that I had never encountered before, called the October surprise. Well, if you know, great. If you don't, hang on, I'll explain a bit. Israel is shouting that it won't comply. Europe is shaking its head. Republicans in Washington are saying that Trump has capitulated. And Iranians are celebrating victory in the streets of Tehran. And here's what is important to understand from the very beginning, because every single commentator gets this confused. Iran has declared its refusal to pursue nuclear weapons. This is a political declaration, but physically there is enriched uranium accumulated by Iran in centrifuges and storage facilities. What should be done with it? Where should it be taken? Who is verifying it? That's exactly what the 60 days of technical negotiations are for. We are not going to make a bomb. And what we do with the material from which it can be made is a completely different matter. These are two entirely different discussions. Today we'll figure out what is a fact, what is a version, and what is pure speculation. And at the same time, why all this noise around Israel? Perhaps this is the biggest political theater of our time, and at the end, about what Trump really wants. And this will surprise you. So here's how it all actually started. Well, the goals of the operation, right? Let's do this without interpretations. On February 28, 2026, the U.S. and Iran launched a military operation against Iran. The White House released an official press release with 4 goals of the campaign. The first is the demilitarization of Iran. The second is to protect the U.S. from future strikes. The third is the elimination of the Ayatollah regime. And the fourth is the protection of the Iranian people from their own government's proxy groups. Did you notice anything about atomic energy here? Please pay attention. The nuclear program is not listed as a separate goal in this list. You might say, but that's the reason we got involved there in the first place. It was the pretext, the trigger, the public reason for starting the war. But the official goals are broader. Regime change, as stated, is broader. Regime change is stated more broadly. Demilitarization, a complete reformatting of the Middle East. That is something that would have truly frightened the Iranian leadership. If we just wanted to take away their atomic bomb, their materials, their centrifuges, they wouldn't be scared. By the way, just so you understand, not one of these 4 officially stated goals has been achieved. The Ayatollah regime is still standing. The Iranian army, it seems, hasn't been demilitarized, proxy groups still exist, and the nuclear facilities, well, of course, they've been partially damaged but not destroyed. And yet, on June 15th, a deal was announced to be signed on the 19th in Switzerland. What is it called? Let me tell you a story. There is a technique in negotiations. Experienced market traders use it, smart diplomats, and as it turns out, Donald J. Trump. First, you make a completely outrageous demand. Canada will be our country. The 51st state. Greenland should become American. Iran must completely demilitarize, change its regime, and get down on its knees. Everyone around is terrified. They say, "Are you crazy or what? Guys, what are you doing?" Yes, partners argue. Opponents are mobilizing. Allies are whispering. Journalists are going crazy and writing articles saying that it's him, Trump, who's gone mad. And then Trump understands. He backs off. And he settles for less. Canada lowers trade barriers. It wasn't taken over, but it did lower its trade barriers. Because that's nothing compared to being taken over, right? Yes, that's exactly what Trump needed. They agreed on a military presence in Greenland without formal annexation. But that's exactly what he wanted. Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz and formally renounces nuclear weapons. That's exactly what was needed. And set back at least 5 years. I think it's 10, let's say 5 years back, in its so-called military-industrial complex, so to speak, right? And most importantly, by giving all these little things to Trump, everyone feels like a winner. They defeated Trump himself. The Iranians say, "We stood our ground." The Europeans say, "We prevented escalation." Israel shouts, "And what about us?" And we won't give up. And Trump, in my opinion, got everything he came for. All right, what do we know for sure? Only the facts. Let's divide the information into three categories. It's important. In the media space, everything is mixed together. Facts are those confirmed officially by both sides. Ciao. On June 15, the U.S. and Iran announced that a memorandum had been reached. This announcement is not a signing, and a memorandum is not a treaty. It's something else. Find out what it is. The signing is scheduled for June 19 in Switzerland. Tehran declares its refusal to develop nuclear weapons. Declares. It's a political statement, not a verified technical fact. That's why there are 60 days of technical talks. What should happen to the enriched uranium already accumulated? What is the control mechanism and who inspects what? It's very important. Washington commits, that is, to unfreeze part of Iran's assets. In other words, Iranian money we've seized. The American naval blockade is lifted. The Strait of Hormuz will be opened after the signing. Iran's missile program is completely excluded from the agenda. It's not discussed at all. The final agreement is approved by a resolution. The UN Security Council, as if they're worth next to nothing. Just for show, as they say. The UN approves it. That's it, there are no more facts, right? Now, what are the so-called versions? In other words, what the different sides say they supposedly achieved, right? A version is neither a lie nor the truth. It's usually an interpretation, which each side presents as a fact, and you have to figure it out yourself. Trump's version. Victory. Iran has been broken. The strait is open. The threat is gone. I did what Biden couldn't do in 4 years. Hooray for me. Iran's version. Our victory. Let's drink to our victory. We've fired under bombardment. The missile program is preserved. The sanctions are being lifted. Israel's version. We're actually not a part of this agreement. Israel is sovereign and doesn't answer to Washington, so basically we do what we want. Got it. Europe's version. It's a step in the right direction, but it's too hasty. Too hasty. 60 days for nuclear negotiations? Unrealistic. You can't even drink 2 cases of champagne in that time. The 2015 deal took almost 2 years. Just remember how much champagne they drank at each meeting. Rumor is they filled the bathtub with champagne and bathed in it. That's the version from Republican critics. These are our own, our very own. So yes, Iran took the world economy hostage through the Hormuz Strait and got concessions. This is capitulation. And what is pure speculation? In the previous one, it was just some convenient statements, so that people would think it's actually a fact. So speculation is something that's presented as analysis. It's thrown in as if it's true, but there's absolutely no documentary evidence. That's the first speculation. Iran will immediately send money to missile programs and Hezbollah. Maybe. Is this confirmed by any documents? No, it's not confirmed. Second speculation, the deal is worse than what Obama signed in 2015. The comparison isn't entirely accurate. The context is fundamentally different. Here there's war, a blockade, and partial destruction of infrastructure. Third speculation, Netanyahu will disrupt it. As for when in the future, I hope you understand that no one can predict that. Netanyahu will disrupt it. Signing, provocation, and infusion. Maybe, yes, but that's a prediction. It's not a fact, so don't mix them up. Fourth speculation. The memorandum has no legal force and will be immediately challenged. Technically correct. Yes. But politically, both governments have publicly announced the deal. The price of backing out is too high for either side. But wait, there's one issue that concerns you personally. Those who live, let's say, in the Russian-speaking diaspora and are watching these events with some concern. You remember how at the beginning of the war with Iran, people thought, that's it? This will last a long time. Rising prices, instability, uncertainty. So, in a few minutes, I will tell you why right now, at this very moment, those who understand the mechanics of what's happening have every reason to be optimistic. Not naive optimism. Reasons for optimism mean well-thought-out reasons, but first about Israel. Because what's happening there, that's Otzah in Hebrew, it's a separate performance. Many people mistake it for reality. Well, that's exactly what it's meant for. Minister of National Security Ben-Gvir stated, Israel is a sovereign state and does not answer to the U.S., and Netanyahu refused to withdraw troops from Lebanon. Israeli sources say that the deal does not resolve key issues, uranium and Hezbollah, loudly, decisively, very independently, going back, and in my opinion, this is theater. About theater. In my opinion, theater. Israel receives about $4 billion in military aid from the U.S. every year, including the Iron Dome system, partially American. The F-35 fighter jets are American. The bombs that struck Iran are American. More than 1,000 strikes were carried out from the U.S. in the first day of the operation. Additional ones on the first day of the operation. When Ben-Gvir says, "We don't obey Washington," it's like a person living in an apartment paid for by a friend, eating his food, wearing his clothes, and at the same time shouting, "I don't depend on anyone." Got it? Well, it's either naivety or a game. Here, a domestic Israeli audience. Honestly, I'm 99.9999% sure that it's the second one, that it's a game. Netanyahu is a very experienced politician. War prolongs his political life. As long as the fighting continues, there is no trial, no elections, no opposition. The trial is still underway but makes no decisions, and there's no opposition strong enough to remove him. This is openly acknowledged. Israeli analysts write about it directly. Peace is not politically beneficial for him. So that's why the outcry, "We won't fulfill the conditions," is not a strategy. It's an attempt to stall, complicate things, and create a new pretext for escalation. But that's not even the point. The point is that Israel cannot fight without the United States. 10 million people, the best in the world, yes, the best in the world, cannot fight against 90 million people in Iran. With the huge amounts of money they've spent on missiles, which at any moment could start flying in large numbers, knowing that there are no new missile deliveries from the United States, to start flying in mass toward Israel, well, all right. The real boundary is simple. An Israeli politician who goes against a direct war against Washington's will, at a time when the whole world is watching the signing, will be left alone, just that politician and Israel, alone against Iran, Turkey, Hezbollah, and the Arab world, without American cover. A man who shouts, "I'm on my own," while being completely dependent on others' resources will either soon lose politically or he's a fool. And Netanyahu, well, he's not a fool, so it's a game. Gentlemen, that means it's a game. And now about something that's rarely discussed but actually explains a lot. In November 2026, there will be midterm, so-called elections to Congress in the U.S. This is the main domestic political goal of the Republicans right now. Here's the math. Historically, the president's party loses in these midterms, as they're called, meaning in the middle between two presidential elections, about 25 to 30 seats in the House of Representatives. This is what's called almost an iron law of American politics. Out of the last 25 elections, it worked 23 times, 23 out of 25 times. But the Republicans made a few moves that slightly changed the equation. The first is redistricting. So, in December 2025, the Supreme Court, by a vote of 6-3, allowed Texas to use the new district map. This gives the Republicans, well, from my point of view, 5 additional seats. That's only in Texas. Missouri, North Carolina, and a couple of other states are seeing the same thing too. The same thing? Well, a smaller number, but the same thing. According to analysts' estimates, the net gain for the Republicans from this redistricting is about 15 additional seats. That is, they were Democratic and they will become Republican. So, if the historical trend gives the opposition 25 to 30 seats and the redistribution compensates for 15, the real fight is for the remaining what? 10 to 15 seats. This is exactly where everything is decided. This is where it gets interesting. In politics, there's a concept called the October surprise. That's what I mentioned at the beginning. It's when just a few weeks before the election, a huge amount is dumped on the opponent. The amount of compromising information is so great that he physically doesn't have time to defend himself. Even those who wouldn't have been convinced end up being stunned. Trump and the Republicans were gathering material. They could have released it gradually, but they held it back for the right moment. For September or October of 26, for the October surprise. 4 cases come to mind that are already in the public domain with numbers. Case 1, Minnesota. Well, of course, you knew it would be Minnesota. Fraud involving social programs totaling up to $9 billion. Money intended to feed children. Care for the disabled. How nice all of this will sound on TV and so on, right? They were flowing into the pockets of people connected to the Somali community. Okay, the Somali community. Apart from the Somali community, all sorts of wild things happen there. Governor Walz, who was also a vice presidential candidate from the Democratic Party in 24, received an official request from the Congressional Oversight Committee. Several hundred employees of the State Department of Social Services. They wrote anonymously that Walz is 100% responsible for large-scale fraud. That is, gentlemen, several hundred state employees. Anonymously. You know I said, right? And there were about 27 or 37, I can't remember exactly now. People who just came during the time he was governor and said, "What are you doing, guys? What are you doing? Why them? What for?" Rewarded. Well, of course, rewarded with dismissal by throwing them out. Walz was already supposed to run, but he backed off running for a 3rd term. The investigation is ongoing. Case 2. Southern Poverty Law Center. On April 21, 2026, a federal grand jury issued an indictment. That is, it already issued some kind of finding. This is a grand jury. This is not a court, not a trial. This is pretrial. They check if there is enough material to say, yes, they are thieves, bandits, or fraudsters. Let's put them on trial. So what? Wire fraud, making false statements to federally insured banks, conspiracy to launder money. In other words, the whole package. According to the charges from 2014 to 2023, the organization sent more. So the amount here isn't very large, but the point is something else. They were cheating in other places too, but this is the most interesting part. They sent more than $3 million as donations to people from the Ku Klux Klan. To members of Nazi organizations and other extremist groups. So this center had been a favorite of the Democratic Party and the Biden administration for many years. They were making a hate map, and so that the fascists and the Ku Klux Klan wouldn't disappear, they paid them salaries so they would continue to be the Ku Klux Klan and fascists. They'd say, guys, that's it, we're done? No? Want a salary? Yes. Then stay involved and attend demonstrations. All right, and you'll also burn crosses, like they used to do. Yes, they said, but we don't have any money. We'll give you money for the crosses. We'll give you money. They even paid for kerosene, gasoline, whatever was needed to pour on them and set them on fire. They paid for the matches. They bought everything for them, gave them the bills, they paid for all of it. And the hoods, too. They paid for the white ones. People said, oh, to hell with those hoods. No, you will wear the hoods. Just order them. We will pay. They paid. Incredible. They created a map of hatred across America, where they were gathering. And it turned out that they were funding some of these groups so they would appear on that map. Why? Just because. The more hatred there was on that map, the more money they received. All right, the answer was simple, that's all. Case 3. My favorite, Act Blue. This is a fundraising organization for the Democratic Party. Republican congressmen have released an interim report. The platform accepted donations from foreign addresses through prepaid cards. That means someone was stealing money. Our money, yours and mine, that's it. Paid for by taxpayers. And then, little by little from foreign IP addresses, well, you know how that's done, right? He was funneling in $5, $10, $20 every second, literally every second. And there were 300, 500, even 1,000 like that. And every second, they were getting huge amounts of money. That's it. It was impossible to check or verify. That's how they built the system. What? You try to check it. Boom. It won't break right now. Boom. It can't be checked. The Department of Justice, by order of Trump dated April 24, 2025, is conducting an investigation into illegal, what's called straw donations. I don't know why, by the way. About possible foreign funding. The investigation is ongoing. The numbers aren't final yet, but we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And where did they come from? Out of thin air. That's the fourth issue. Fraud involving federal programs from the Biden era in general. The State Bureau of Financial Control. These are not Republican tools. This is an absolutely nonpartisan organization. It estimates the annual losses from fraud in federal programs. 5 to 10% of the budget. Just to be clear, our budget is $7 trillion. That means we lose it so easily. It just disappears. Nobody knows where it is. It was there, and then poof, gone. It's over, erased. From $350 to $700 billion just disappear somewhere. Including the Pentagon, by the way. Finance Minister Besson publicly stated his readiness to make this data the central topic of the election campaign. Oh, he's smart. Oh, he's a smart son of a bitch. When will all of this come out at once? In September, most likely. By October, it should already be on fire, right? Voters who are still undecided will be hit by an avalanche of specific names, specific numbers, specific faces with specific indictments. You can't just say, oh, it's nothing. No, these are indictments. It's impossible to clear your name 2 weeks before the vote. So, what will happen in the end? After July 19th. It will be signed on July 19th. I hope it will be signed. Anything can happen. Most likely it will happen. Both sides have already publicly announced the deal. Remember, Iran kept saying, no, I haven't even changed my mind. I'll overtake. To back down means to lose inside the country. After the signing, the Hormuz Strait is open. Oil is flowing and gas prices are dropping. Every American feels it at the gas station. Slowly, it fills up, drops altitude. Easy. And then, of course, it drops slowly, but still. That's exactly what Trump needs before October. So that by October or November, everyone will have already seen it. It's moving in the right direction. More than 50,000 troops are beginning a phased withdrawal back home. Well, they usually serve not far from there. Their families are somewhere around there, here and there. 60 days of negotiations on the nuclear issue are beginning. I assume in advance that they will turn into a much longer period, at least until the end of November. Israel continues to put pressure on Lebanon. I'm absolutely sure of it. Already without American air cover over Iran. Hezbollah will keep firing at Israel all the time. Israel will respond to Hezbollah. Hezbollah will respond, and so on. When Iran intervenes, the Americans will say, there's nothing we could do. You need to keep Hezbollah under control. Why are they suddenly, here, look, here are satellite images from above. They were firing. The Israelis respond simply, they can't not respond, and so on. This deal is not the end of the Iranian problem, not at all. This is the beginning of a new period, and this period is paradoxically more beneficial for the free world than anything that came before. Let me explain. We are already very close to finishing this program, because now comes the most important part. By the way, 40 people watching say somewhere in the middle, yes, I get it, and then they quit, and they never get to the most important part. But I keep developing the idea. I'm leading to something. I give exact numbers. I lay out what people are saying, what's true, what's not true, what's made up, things like that. And I'm leading to something. And when I finally get to the end, to the conclusion, out of the 40 who started watching, they say, yeah, I'm going to bed, guys. Why did you even watch in the first place? Why did you bother watching? Huh? Why? Just to tell yourself he's an idiot? Or to say I already figured it all out? Well, he's an idiot. Of course. There's no problem. And you're smarter. Of course. You're smarter, right? But if you've already started, watch it till the end. Iran. After the war. The blockade and partial destruction of infrastructure will require at least 5 years to restore the economy. Who will pay for this? I don't care at all right now. Not America. Trust me. Not America. No matter what Pruny says or insists. Pruny. During these 5 years, Israel and the monarchs of the Persian Gulf will have time to build a new security architecture, sign agreements, and create a system in which the Iranian Strait, Iranian weapons, and Iranian influence will stop playing the role they play now. To defeat the victor. So, there isn't any. There isn't. Has Iran been destroyed? No, it hasn't been destroyed, but its venomous fangs have been pulled out. And while it's growing new ones, the world around it will be changing. Is this a perfect result? No, gentlemen, there are almost no perfect results in politics. They defeated Germany after World War I, forced it to sign a humiliating treaty, everyone celebrated, everyone was happy, and they planted the seeds for World War II. Because a country like Germany cannot endure such humiliation. Well, all right. So the result is that the free world will have time and space for maneuvering, while the venom has been drained from its fangs. If you want to understand how these mechanisms work, not just at the news level, but at the level of principles, subscribe. Every day I analyze world events through the lens of the science of freedom. Book. Free. My book is below in the description. Download the book. Those who download it will receive 10-minute videos every day. These are analyses that I don't publish anywhere else. Now, for $4 a month, there are exclusive materials for those who want to think one step ahead. We are living in a moment when one era is ending and another is beginning. The Middle East will never be the same. American politics, well, to be honest, I think so too. And despite all the chaos, this is not a reason to panic, but a reason for sober calculation. Tell me, what would you prefer? To beat up the hooligans who attacked you on the road and walk away proudly, then the next day they attack you again, and you proudly beat them again, and walk away proudly once more, and the day after that you beat them again, and they attack you again, and so it goes on for 78 years, every day. Or would you prefer to reshape the landscape so that they can't attack you? That's when you'll solve this issue. One way or another, maybe then you'll understand what Trump is doing. But for now, until next time, see you soon.